Well, by now, we've all seen this picture we're about to show you. Mark Hughes was identified by police as a suspect immediately after a gunman opened fire on police. But it turns out Hughes wasn't a suspect, but it was too late, and now he's still feeling the fallout. People on the streets of Dallas panicked at the sounds of gunfire. When Hughes' older brother heard the shots, he remembered his younger brother had a gun. A Facebook video showed Mark turning in his gun to officers at the urging of his brother. But the photo of him was all over the internet. Both were taken in for questioning, and now they fear for their lives.
It's like there was an extremist shooting at cops downtown. There could have been extremists shooting at us at our homes.
Scanner traffic shows Hughes was being watched by police because he was carrying an AR-15. Hughes says he was exercising his constitutional rights to attend a peaceful rally, and carrying his licensed firearm. Open carry is legal in Texas. He says he'd do it again. So does Hughes have a legal case for being wrongly named as a suspect? Well, joining this morning is attorney Rob Crain from Crain & Lewis to discuss this issue. So thank you so much for being with us.
You bet.
And does Mark Hughes have a case, and if so, how strong is this case?
The short answer is he does not likely have a case. The police department has, as most governmental units do, immunity for having policy discretionary decisions such as how to go about an investigation in a terrible event like we saw the other night. So they've got immunity for that. There are incidents where individuals can make claims against the government for civil rights violations. But in order to do that, they've got to show that their civil rights were violated, which I don't know that Mr. Hughes would be able to do that here. I think that's very unlikely. But then civil rights violations under Section 1983 of the law require a heightened burden. They've got to show that there was gross negligence on the part of the police department over a period of time, showing that civil rights violations had occurred even before Mr. Hughes' incident. And there doesn't seem to be a pattern of that, at least from anything I've seen so far. So it's very unlikely at this point.
So he wouldn't have a case just with this one particular incident, even if he's saying that, you know, perhaps his right to carry openly was violated, or his freedom of speech for just being at the event was violated because police labeled him as a suspect just for doing those two things?
I think an attorney for the police department, if that ever came about, would say, well, his rights were not violated. He was allowed to carry his firearm. He was allowed to participate in the protest. And the police department is going to say, you know, we did what we thought was responsible in protecting the people of the city of Dallas. And that's what happens. We have a constitution that we have debate about in regards to open carry. And when you have guns, unfortunately, in a situation like the other night, things get complicated very quickly for the police department, and that's why we give immunity for those police departments.
What about the people who say the police department could have put Mark Hughes' life in danger because they put his face out there? There was a lot of outrage immediately after what happened, and if someone had seen him on the street, or an officer had seen him on the street, or even just a person who was angry, that could have turned out really badly.
That's a difficult situation because there's the balance. The police department at that point in time is thinking, we want to protect the lives of people out in the city of Dallas on the streets, and this person might be somebody who is a part of the problem. So they're balancing, you know, his rights versus the safety of those people that they're trying to protect out there, and they felt like the best thing they could do to protect the people of Dallas was to identify this individual and to understand what he was doing and what his purpose was.
Sure, and there's a big difference too between calling him a suspect, which is what that tweet that the police department sent out with his picture initially said, and calling him a person of interest, which, like you described, is just wanting to have someone come in and question them, but not thinking, you know, not necessarily connoting or suggesting that he was connected directly to the crime.
And that's a good point. And I believe that we've all seen person of interest develop in the media. You know, we didn't talk about person of interest, you know, 15 years ago. We do now because departments are being more sensitive to that labeling. And I suspect that, as we saw as the evening went on, that label of suspect, I believe, went away to a person of interest.
Sure, but that tweet stayed up for quite some time.
It did, and I will give Mr. Hughes' brother credit, and Mr. Hughes credit as well. When gunshots fired, they did the right thing. They took that firearm off, they gave it over to police officers, and in a complicated situation, they lessened the problems that could come with more guns in a volatile situation.
Sure. Now, as far as a legal case, you say that probably won't come to fruition, but what about a civil suit or even an apology? Do you think we'll see something like that?
You know, I don't think you're going to see, you know, Chief Brown. I'm a big fan of our police department. I'm a big fan of Chief Brown. I think they're going to say that we did our job, and I don't know that, you know, he'll apologize, but that's up to him. I don't believe there's going to be any civil action. Again, I think a civil action would require a civil rights type claim, which I don't see here. And I do feel for Mr. Hughes and the complexity that has been brought to his life. But at the same time, when you bring a firearm and open carry to a public event where there is a lot of police, if gunfire should erupt, you're in a precarious position because the police don't know whether you're on the good side or the bad side, and that complicates things.
And you're right, he did the right thing by just turning his gun over to police right after he realized that his picture was being plastered all over social media. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
And now we want to turn our attention to the officers who died in the ambush. We know their names and you can see their faces right there on your screen. They are Lauren Arends, Michael Kroll, Michael Smith, Brent Thompson, and Patrick Zamripa. 4 of these men worked for the Dallas Police Department. Brent Thompson was a DART police officer. This afternoon, there will be a special opportunity for people to come together to remember the victims and pray for them and their families.